My name is Liz Partsch,
And I'm Paul Rowley.
and welcome to Farm and Dairy's Weekly Rundown.
We will be giving you another rundown of the week's top stories.
Yes, here
Very
we are.
exciting.
Yeah, well, I kind of have some big news, everyone.
Yeah, listen here.
Yeah, at Farm and Dairy, in this week's issue, we officially have launched our energy series. It's called Powering a Nation. Yeah.
Nation.
Oh yeah.
What an undertaking.
Yeah, it's we have talked about doing this energy series at least over a year now.
Yeah.
And we finally started working on it end of last year. Preparing for it to come out beginning of this year. And well, I guess I'll tell you a little bit about why we're doing this.
Please do.
Yeah. So in the introduction, you'll see there's a little introduction on of what the series is about online and both in the paper, but I'm giving you a little summary of what that is.
Exclusive for our podcast audience.
Exclusive for the pod audience, right? So if you don't know by now, we are in an energy crisis, and our region, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, are poised to solve this. This energy crisis is according to the Trump administration, which declared a national energy emergency the day he entered office. He is not alone in this, though. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro also followed suit with a lightning plan that will ramp up energy production across the state. So these proclamations came just after the U.S. produced the most energy it ever has in the history of the country 2 years in a row.
Wow.
Huge. So, why are people saying we are in an energy crisis when the data is saying we produced a record-breaking amount of energy we've ever have in the last 2 years, right? Well, this is what the energy series is really going to be addressing, this energy crisis, which will be evaluating, it could include why we're in an energy crisis, the development of AI data centers, aging infrastructure, an unreliable grid, and in more topics that will eventually be introduced later in the series. But yeah, so in this first part of the series released this week, we will look at how the rapid development of data centers is changing the landscape in our coverage area, because data centers are coming to our region and we want you, the readers, to know about them, because I've been seeing a lot of proposals over the last year. This is why we decided to kick this energy series off when it is now, because energy is going to change a lot, and this story is going to be looking at all energy types throughout the year. We're still kind of working on a schedule, but it's going to be a recurring series throughout the year. So that's just a little bit about the series itself. So yeah, what do you got for us, Paul?
Oh, well, I guess I could launch into a story that our friends from the AP wrote. And it was about the Pennsylvania Farm Show in Harrisburg. So imagine this. A packed crowd had gathered at this farm show to celebrate the much maligned but enduring mullet hairstyle. This was on January 12th at a contest at the Pennsylvania Farm Show in Harrisburg, as I said. We've got this. So imagine the short in the front, long in the back. Coiffure, I think, is the word that the AP uses, because, of course, they're once the province of Canadian hockey players and hair metal bands, this contest attracted about 150 competitors and more than 1,000 spectators.
Oh, yeah.
For the day's main, get it?
Hey!
Event. That's very fun.
Love that.
Yeah. The top award went to 10-year-old Drew Fleshett of Dallas, Pennsylvania, who wore a red and black shirt in homage to movie character Joe Dirt. I didn't know he was a movie character, isn't he? No, he is a movie character.
I recognize the name Joe Dirt.
Yeah.
I just can't put the name to the face.
For some reason, I'm getting him confused with Joe Dirt, but getting him confused with the guy from My Name is Earl.
Oh,
the
I
Earl
thought you were
guy.
going to say the tiger dude.
The tiger dude as well. There's a lot of dudes that can fit this profile.
Yeah, he's reminding me of that dude, even
Yeah.
though I don't. Is his name Joe? I think his name might be Joe.
I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah, he seems like a Joe. We're just gonna say he's a Joe.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes. So anyway, in homage to this Joe, other contestants were evaluated. Well, all the contestants were evaluated for the style of their cut, any props or accessories that they donned, their presentation, and their overall sense of commitment to this bit that they're doing, their haircut. According to Judge Brittany Goldberg, there were magic tricks apparently at this show of mullets. There were customized T-shirts. One gentleman even debuted a skullet, which is actually a mullet, but is sported by someone who is balding on most of their head. So this is just fun. One kid did not want to leave the stage That's all this AP reporter wrote. I don't know what happened.
Just one
This-
kid was like,
he didn't
"This
leave.
is my moment."
I'm not sure what happened. So yeah, another took the occasion to pick his nose, which is actually, we debated yesterday when we were putting the paper together on whether we wanted to put that picture in the paper.
It was
'cause
so
it's really
adorable.
funny.
It was so
It was
adorable.
adorable. It was really nice. Some danced the worm, which I think is when you go on the floor and you do like that. So that's my demonstration of the worm, what I think it is. Some dabbed, which for those who don't know that are watching this at home, it's like, that's the first
Yeah.
dab on the pod, by the way. That's
Wow,
really
that's
significant moment.
We're
here.
gonna keep it the last. That's the last one too.
Yeah, that's the last one. A few ripped off their shirts naturally, pro wrestling style. Ben Barley, who is 7 of Red Lion, which I think is another community in Pennsylvania, arrived at the event wearing a T-shirt featuring his name and the words "Mullet Life 6-7." Which is, according to the AP, a nod to both his hairstyle and the bafflingly popular youth catchphrase that people over the age of 20 don't know. Maybe. I don't know. They know it.
Probably.
I don't know.
I feel like even younger
yeah.
than that.
It's our job to
but I
know
don't know.
things, and I don't know what 6-7 means. I don't understand. I'm sorry.
It means nothing.
It's over my head. It's a, yeah.
So like that, it
That's literally
actually
what
just
it-
means
yeah.
6-7.
Yeah.
It just like I think is
Yeah.
used to piss. Supposedly,
Yeah.
being the Gen Z I am, so
Yes,
I'm not included
please.
in the 6-7 whole thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's just like
That's the point.
the
yeah.
lack of meaning is supposed
Okay.
to piss people off
I'm
who
getting it.
think that there is a meaning.
Okay, following you now. Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you for that. That
Yeah.
was edifying. So that's what he was wearing, and he told the AP reporter who wrote this story that he'd been working on his mullet for 2 years. So he's
Wow.
working really hard on
Dedication.
this. I know. Though mullets likely have been around longer than there have been barbers, the Oxford English Dictionary cites hip hop legends the Beastie Boys for helping to popularize the term mullet with the song Mullet Head on their 1994 recording Ill Communication. As the Venerable Dictionary notes, it is a term that is slang, humorous, and, quote, frequently derogatory. The contest is in its 3rd year, and it's one of the few at the Pennsylvania Farm Show open to people who live outside the state. Liz, over to you.
Cool.
Yeah.
I would love to go to the mullet show.
It sounds like something.
Yeah, I wanted to go last year when I went to
Yeah.
the farm show for Farmer Dairy,
Mhm.
but I couldn't manage it, so
Dang,
I
yeah.
won't be going this year either. So one
Bummer.
day I will.
Next
I
year.
will
There's
make
always
it.
next
Yeah,
year.
always
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we're back again to talking about the energy series.
Energy series.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
could be our theme
There we go.
song.
Yeah,
Oh my
that's
god. Okay, we'll remember that for next time this happens. But yeah, so this energy series, the first installment, the first part involves 2 stories. So I'm going to talk to you about the first one for now. So the first story in the energy series is called "What is a Data Center?" and it addresses this very question. First and foremost, what is AI? I feel like, if our readers don't know what it is, I'll
Yeah.
give you a little quick explanation. It's called artificial intelligence. It's a technology trained to perform human tasks using information from data sets to solve problems, plan, and make decisions. And advancing AI has become a very clear part of the Trump administration's agenda
Yeah.
last year and into this year. The administration has released several executive orders and an action plan calling for things like modifying environmental regulations to expedite AI data center permits. So you can really see it is a focal point of this administration's goals.
Yeah.
Actually earlier this year, or earlier last year, the U.S. Department of Defense said AI is essential for national security,
Oh.
including like data breaches.
Oh.
And then, so in this story, I talk about some things that AI can be used for, because it can be useful for farmers and just everyday life, which is why a lot of land-grant universities like Penn State and Ohio State University are investing in and conducting research for this technology.
Yeah.
For an example, Penn State is working on a study conducting or developing an AI system that will detect bovine respiratory disease,
Oh, wow.
which is the leading cause of death for dairy calves after they become accustomed to food other than their mother's milk, and that's according to
Oh.
Penn State University.
Okay.
So they're using AI to make some just revolutionary changes society. But while it can be beneficial, other academics warn AI data centers will increase electricity costs for consumers as these they're called AI hyperscale data centers, are being built to use the same amount of power as 80,000 to 800,000
Oh.
houses.
That's a big number.
So yeah, just by that, I mean, I have a lot of statistics in there
Yeah.
that kind of demonstrate really the amount of power that these things require.
Yeah.
But just by that alone, it requires a lot of power to use these things in multiple facets, whether it be energy or water usage. So in order to power all these data centers, we will need to produce more energy, which is where our region comes into play, really. According to a study, electricity is expected to double by 2030 to meet the energy demands of AI. If we don't, I mean, and this is including, with all these power plants coming online, or at least, could. And with obviously with more energy production comes more emissions.
Yeah.
According to a CMU study, which is Carnegie Mellon University, if you don't know the abbreviation, emissions will increase up to 30% by 2030 to meet the energy demands of AI. And Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia will likely see an overwhelming majority of that increase in emissions, which Mike Blackhurst, a professor at Carnegie Mellon University who led the study, had said to me directly for the story. So as you can see, that was actually a brief description, even though that sounded kind of long, about the story. But you can really see just by that, some of that information, that our region is going to play a huge part in powering these data centers. We already play a huge part in powering the nation in general, just being so natural resource rich in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. So to really read there's a lot more information about both the good and the bad of AI in this story that you can check out online as part of our Powering a Nation Energy series. So.
Yeah. And you know what?
Oh, thanks, Paul.
For the energy series. And for Liz.
Oh,
yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm applauding our farm and dairy staff who, not just me, but like tirelessly, our composition team has been working so diligently and hard these last few weeks to make, hopefully when this comes out the online, we've been just really focusing on making this look really good and having some visuals for all of you to really picture this. So
do you want to tell the people how many months that this took to get to this point?
Yeah. I'll probably talk a little bit more about reporting it out when I introduce the second story, because the second story definitely took a lot more work.
Okay, yeah.
But I've been working on this since the beginning of November of last year. So it's been about over 2 months of reporting out this story.
Yeah.
I think it's honestly the only thing I've been thinking about lately.
Yeah.
So it's actually exciting. It's out in the open because now I can think about other stories.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
But anyways, what do you got for us, Paul? Let's lighten the mood.
What's next? I have a fun one actually in our auction section. All right. So sliced bread. We love it.
Yes.
We often say things are older than sliced bread. Like we'll be like, Betty White is older than sliced bread. And I don't even know if that's accurate, but I don't know. Betty White is always beautiful, but so is Wonder Bread. From Paul Loker, it's often said that bread is the staff of life. I've never heard that saying in my life.
I've never heard that in my life
but
either,
I'm going to give it to Paul.
Maybe the people that know that saying are older than
right. This is Paul,
know.
the much wiser Paul than this Paul, who knows much more about everything, I think. So I'm sure that people say this. I'm a millennial, so I don't know anything. Anyway, I'm just young and beautiful. I can't help it. I'm sorry. Nowhere was that more clear that bread is just really important than on the Ohio frontier back in the frontier times, apparently. For early settlers, bread was not just like a side dish or a comfort food. It was a staple. It was very, very important. And in many, like the cabins where the frontier people lived, bread was like the difference between like we ate today and we are starving in some cases. Mm-hmm. So So pioneers loved bread. They especially loved toasted bread. They're just like me, honestly.
I love a good toasted bread with like just butter.
Yes. I just got breakfast the other day. We had like a really lazy day and we like called breakfast and then had it delivered to our house, which in and of itself is, modern times can be very, very, it's very hard to live in modern times, but that is one of the advents of like the 21st century. I just love having food delivered to my house. I don't do it often, but it's so great. And so we got breakfast. And one of my favorite parts of the whole breakfast bread that I got, which was like eggs, hash browns, like the whole thing, it was the buttered toast.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Sometimes it just really hits.
Oh, it hits so much. Oh, it was so it was like almost comforting. It was beautiful. So anyway, back to back to Paul Loker's story.
Back to back from salivating
Right,
over
right.
sliced bread.
Right. So I was thinking about it, and like this is not what Paul Loker actually wrote at all, but a pioneer I think would get quite a lot out of eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Although the sugar content alone would probably do terrible things to them. We're used to it, at this point. But anyway, forget like the push button toaster though, or like the toast that when you toast it, it shoots up into your kitchen, or in the nice little toaster oven that you have. None of that is available on the frontier. So what you have is toasting bread means working in front of like an open hearth, like a literal fireplace kind of situation. Not even like a fire, like it's, the hearth. It's the thing that, heats your home and keeps you alive. The loaves of bread did not look like they do in the grocery store. They're like very round, dense. They're hand formed. Nothing like kind of like the Wonder Bread slices sort of situation that we're all used to. To make the toast, settlers relied on like wrought iron tools. That's all they had, which were forged by the blacksmiths. Some people that you actually met, a while ago. One popular design apparently is known as the kick toaster. So thick slices of bread, they're stood upright, like this. I'm trying to illustrate, in an iron basket sort of contraption. And then they're pushed close to the fire using this sort of like long handle thing that Paul writes about. Once one side is like brown and toasted, to your liking, you could flip the basket thing, and then the other side would, toast it all the same as much as you would want. So they had it worked out. Sometimes the pioneers would like turn it using a fireplace poker. Sometimes they would like stand it up or something with like a boot. There was a boot involved to do this, which is just very, very fun. Functional, yes. And that's what they had that's what they had to use on the frontier. And then these like pieces, of course, Paul writes that they were like very like, these are artisan pieces. So like the iron pokers and things, like they're decorated with, wonderful flourishes, and they're very like, very cool and sought after. When the toast was done, then there was coffee, which was obviously roasted at home over the fire. And when I was reading this, it reminded me that I did not have coffee all day today, and I'm like feeling it that I didn't. So I really wish I did. But a nice like a roasted coffee over, like this sounds like superb coffee, not like the stuff I'm used to at the store. This
pioneers lived in luxury.
They kind of, I mean, it took a lot. Like I watched some of those like PBS shows where they like go back to the frontier, and like, or not even just PBS. There's one on like Magnolia Network. And like they got to build the house. And I wasn't built for that life. I need penicillin. Like I couldn't have survived in this body anytime before like 1940. Yeah. I know that. And like all of like the creature comforts that I have and enjoy and completely take for granted on a daily basis. I can't do like all the things that these people did. So anyway, but nevertheless, these people persevered. and that's, really, really interesting. And they left behind this, they just wanted the same things we did. So anyway, very interesting piece. To get all like the actual details from it, you should definitely check out the auction section to read the full piece.
And there's some cool photos, I think, too.
Yes, that's right.
Of the gadgets that Paul talked about. Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I'll talk about the second story in the energy series.
Please.
Back to the energy series. Hopefully this is not too much whiplash for you all. But yeah, so the second story in the series follows several Greene County residents who are debating a proposal to put a data center on a former coal mine. So this is giving you, I guess, the actual example of what is happening compared to what the first story just talks about what a data center is. This is an example of something that's actually happening right now. But this isn't any coal mine that they're putting this on. I just want to clarify. It's the Rabina coal mine, which it was at one point was one of the the largest underground coal mine in the country.
Wow.
At one point,
That's saying something.
It was huge. So known as Project Hummingbird, this is this hyperscale data center. They're
Mm,
calling it Hummingbird. Will contain AI servers to support artificial intelligence,
mm.
and it is expected to bring thousands of jobs to the region and much needed tax revenue to the Greene County.
Oh,
As Greene County really just has struggled economically since the fallout of coal mining
okay.
in the county. So in this story, obviously I'm just giving you a brief little rundown. There's lots more detail about all of this, but I kind of give you a timeline for just how industry in Greene County has developed
Yeah.
from coal mining to natural gas to where we are today. Natural gas is still obviously part of it too. But yeah, so in addition, this project, the data center, it will also clean up the Robina mine, which is a brownfield site.
Ah,
And a brownfield site is a basically just contaminated land that the EPA considers a
okay.
brownfield site or
Yeah.
a contaminated land.
Okay.
And the really Greene County has been unable to clean up this site for decades because of a lack of funding.
Mm.
And meanwhile, as they've been wanting to clean this up for decades, more and more of this like coal waste that is at this site is just continuing to flow into the Monongahela River,
Oh,
which this site is right by the Monongahela River.
yeah.
So it's just continuing to leak like bad things into our water here in Western
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. So anyways, some residents in the county really support it. This data center, saying it is much needed investment in the county that is rapidly losing population. Greene County has been steadily losing
Mm.
people for decades.
Yeah.
And they, with jobs and tax base coming into the region, that's very appealing for some residents
Yeah.
who I talked to and visited with, who took me around Waynesburg, which is another city area in Greene County.
Yeah.
Others who will live close to the data center, like residents in Alicia, like the Barton family. That's another family I
Yeah.
talked to. And Alicia is actually, it's a former coal mining town. This is the coal mine. This community was built for the Robina coal mine as a coal mining town. So this is
Oh,
where the workers
interesting.
would stay.
Yeah.
It's kind of below the coal mine,
Yeah.
and it's right along the Monongahela. But these residents, obviously are really concerned about the health impacts of this data center, particularly the natural gas turbines that will power the data center. The natural gas turbines are actually going to go a few hundred feet away from all of these houses and where these people live, which is, really a big concern for a lot of these people. And a lot of residents are really saying that it's not much different from living next to the coal mine, which one of members of the Barton family had told me, was like a 24-hour amusement park. It was constantly loud,
Wow.
and the hazardous coal waste that would be up on the mountain would blow with the wind all the time, coating residents and people in coal dust, which isn't
Mm.
very good for you. They're kind of equating it to these natural gas power plant being like very similar with
Yeah.
in terms of emissions. So yeah, so this story really kind of just looks at all facets of different residents' opinions, of the Greene County commissioners, of the people that are doing the project themselves. So yeah, I guess that was hopefully a brief description of it. In the story, it goes into a lot more details. It's a lot of scene settings, so you can actually visualize like really, what is kind of. It's almost like I don't know. You feel sympathy. I think when I was writing this story, it's
Yeah.
really hard to like pick like, oh, I support this, I support this. The whole thing is just like you feel for everybody in this story, and I
Yeah.
think that is something that really challenged me about this story, is that everybody I talked to had such a valid reason for the way that they felt.
Yeah.
And I think it really challenged me as a journalist to, talk to people that I don't necessarily may not agree with or have the same opinions with, but be able to see and agree with it in a way.
Yeah.
This story just for me, reporting it out was, I just really think it helped me grow as a journalist.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it is a very important story because I do not think Greene County is alone in this. I think a lot of
Right.
counties in our region are maybe not exactly like, but have very similar stories to
Similar,
Greene
yeah.
County, where they're in this situation where this industry could help them, but
Mhm.
also it may have some side effects that are going to hurt people.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just going to stop rambling about my experience there, and just let the words of the story speak for itself. So, yes, if you're interested, this is a good example of just how data center is going to affect this one community, and a community that you may be able to sympathize with. So,
Yeah. Well, great stuff, Liz. Very
thanks, Paul.
nice. Yeah. Well, what do I have?
Just
Uh,
send us off.
Yeah, I guess
The
I could.
POTUS.
Yes. I for our rural section this week, I wrote about WOTUS, and I'm going to explain to you what I mean. So, after years and years and years of lawsuits, arguments, uncertainty, debate, the federal government is moving forward officially to narrow which streams, wetlands, and waterways fall under the purview of the Clean Water Act, which is the nation's like landmark bedrock like water quality law, um which you probably, if you're watching this podcast or listening to it, you probably know all about the Clean Water Act.
Mhm.
You're an expert, come on the podcast sometime,
Yeah.
talk to so anyway, this change follows a 2023 Supreme Court ruling, and it is meant to bring the law in line with the court's decision. Supporters of the reframed law, which include farmers, builders, business groups, not all of these, just many of them among those different groups of folks, say that this is a long overdue change. They argue that the rules have been unclear for years, which have left landowners unsure of, like, for example, a lot of folks will talk about like if there's a ditch in on their property, or like a low spot, or a seasonal puddle that kind of like fills in with water like during like the rainier seasons, but then it's dry for like 6 months out of the year. If that is, there's been questioned for some of these folks if that should be considered federally protected water. Um, and that they're relieved now that that is probably out of the scope of the Clean Water Act now, according to the Supreme Court ruling. For environmental advocates, however, the this moment is quite stressful, and they're seeing a lot of red flags on the field. One of those folks that I talked to, her name is Autumn Crow, and she works throughout West Virginia's Greenbrier River watershed. So it's about a 1,600 square mile system, which is anchored by the Greenbrier River, and it is actually the state's longest free flowing river,
Oh, cool.
which is really cool. It's a river where people recreate in, they swim, they fish, and they also depend on it for drinking water. A lot of folks along the river. But it is also struggling quite well, not as much as the rivers in the state, but it is still struggling. It is listed as impaired because of different bacterias that are detected in the water, unfortunately, which is pollution that is derived from any place that's non-source or non-point source pollution. So it comes from agricultural runoff. It comes from like septic tanks that have failed. It's aging infrastructure. It's things like that that will seep into the water. So they in this the Greenbrier River watershed, there's an association at work here, and it's consisting of local volunteers. It's scientists tracking down problem spots and then trying to like come up with solutions for how to like address where pollutants are getting into the water and how they can like mitigate that. Um, and before it spreads. So Autumn Crow, I talked to her. She was really, really a cool person, and she does really, really great work. And she's worried though that the narrowing federal protections could undo the progress that they've been able to make in the watershed, especially when it comes to wetlands. When I was writing this story, wetlands kept coming up again and again as either of a concern that people have, or a point of contention where like the permitting is going to get really weird. So let me kind of explain a little bit about where this is. So wetlands, this is what Autumn said, but also just in general, for the Greenbrier watershed, it's kind of, she described it sort of like a safety net. I've written a lot about wetlands actually in my time in Farm and Dairy, and I've heard them described as like kidneys, of the landscape.
Mm.
The way that they filter out like nutrients, for example, that will run otherwise into like our lakes, like Lake Erie or rivers or anything like that. The wetlands can really hold back a lot of that sort of
Wow,
stuff.
that's really cool.
Yeah. So the wetlands, including in West Virginia, they slow floodwaters, which is very, very important. Trap sediment, filter pollution. Under the new definition, many wetlands that do not have a visible surface connection to a river or stream could lose federal protection altogether. And in West Virginia, the state might not be able to like do much more in the way of protecting these kind of independent wetlands, because the state has provision in its laws that its laws and its oversights and whatnot cannot be more stringent than federal laws. So they really
Mm,
don't have the ability to like go out of their way to make up for the sudden lack of protections for some of these waterways.
yeah.
Environmental groups are also saying that the timing is really bad because, as the Nature Conservancy told me, the U.S. has already lost more than half of its historic wetlands and like the lower 40H, which is like dicey. We obviously don't want to see that because we do need these wetlands, and we see more and more with
Yeah.
sea level rise.
You're
And
like saying I don't need my kidneys, so I
right,
just took them
I
out.
just
I just
take
don't need
one,
one.
and it's
Yeah.
fine. I could just deal with
Yeah.
one. At the same time, I talked to an environmental consultant, kind of about like the permitting challenges that were around this. Then I talked to developers, specifically not just like developers whose goal it is to fill in every wetland they can and put a subdivision in it. Like I talked to bridge builders and like infrastructure people who like we do need bridges, like
Mhm.
to get around and to move goods and services and people. And we need people to rebuild bridges when storms knock them out. Like we do need bridges. So it was all these kind of things, and all these people who there's parts of the law that they're looking forward to, but at the same time, it's not like an interest of theirs to see water quality be reduced to nothing in certain places. Like that is obviously not an economic boom. Like people do not want to move to a place that is like infamous for having like terrible water that they can't drink. So it's this whole like thing right now. There's a lot of debate around this. So anyway, if you would like to read the full story, it is, I don't know quite where in rural, but it is somewhere in the rural section. So you can find it there. And also, it features some photos that I took on the way into work of a reservoir that is not really related to the story that I
Yeah.
wrote at all. But it is, nevertheless, it is actually a very important reservoir that supplies water to the city of Akron and surrounding communities, um, which is about 300,000 people,
Yeah.
to rely on this body of water. That I just thought was interesting, and also helped that it was quite on the way to work. But that's not that would be impacted because of the law, but nevertheless, drinking water very important. So
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah. Sounds like a good story. It sounds like
Yeah, there we go.
yeah, a necessary story as
Yeah.
see these.
We try at Farm and Dairy,
Yeah.
and I believe that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is it. So, well, that is our top stories for the week, guys. So,
To read more, go to farmanddairy.com or check out your local newsstand.
yeah, and thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Bye bye for now.